Before Salem, before Roswell, there was a patch of land on the coast of North Carolina that gave America its first historical mystery. In 1587, more than 100 English settlers stepped off their ships and onto the shores of Roanoke Island to build a new life. They were an ocean away from the nearest cobblestone street, completely cut off from Western civilization, with nothing but the tools they carried ashore. Because of that extreme geographic isolation, self-sufficiency was still years away. Their continued survival depended entirely upon an unbroken lifeline of supply ships, making the highly treacherous transatlantic crossing. Recognizing how vulnerable they were, the colony's leader, John White, sailed back to England to secure those vital provisions. He planned to return immediately. Instead, he hit a massive geopolitical roadblock. War with Spain broke out, and Queen Elizabeth grounded every available English ship to fight the Spanish Armada, physically trapping White in Europe. This timeline illustrates the delay. Months bled into years, stretching the silence to a grueling 1,000 days. And that poses a terrifying question. What physically happens to 100 unsupplied men, women, and children when the clock simply runs out? In 1590, John White finally made it back. He rowed ashore, stepped into the clearing, and found absolute silence. He expected to find desperate, starving survivors pleading for food, but he was met with an empty settlement. Every single person, the entire colony, was gone. The clearing functions as a forensic record of the colony's final hours, preserved at the exact moment of departure. When a whole population succumbs to a sudden disaster, you expect to find a chaotic ruin, but this site remained perfectly intact. The settlement perimeter contains no human remains, no shallow graves, and zero evidence of forced entry. The undisturbed tree line contradicts a sudden, violent ambush. Structurally, the houses weren't burned or smashed. They had been carefully dismantled. Taking down heavy timber frames requires time, teamwork, and planning. This points to a calculated, orderly evacuation rather than a panicked flight. Finally, there is the message left on a tree in the center of the clearing, the word CROATOAN. The lack of graves, the dismantled homes, and the deliberate carving point away from a catastrophe, suggesting instead a calm, intentional survival plan. The carving likely referenced the CROATOAN tribe living on a nearby island. The most direct conclusion is that the starving settlers executed their plan, packed up, and integrated with their neighbors to survive. Alternatively, the evacuation might have failed in transit, forcing the colonists off their planned route and deep into an unforgiving forest. The problem is that the physical trail goes cold exactly at the tree line. We lack the artifacts or genetic records from that era to prove whether they reached the neighboring island or died trying. That single carved word acts as a paradox. It supports a story of salvation and a story of doom with equal weight. John White spent days searching the coast, but he never found a single trace of his family or the 100 people left behind. Their complete erasure from the historical record earned them the title of America's Lost Colony. It is a stark lesson regarding the limits of survival. A group of people can execute a methodical plan, leave a clear note indicating exactly where they are going, and still be swallowed whole by the wilderness. The Roanoke mystery endures precisely because the physical evidence forces us to confront a hard truth. Sometimes, historical investigation simply hits a wall, leaving us alone in the dark.